Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio, and welcome to a bass build, and a bass build that I am thoroughly enjoying. I ended up last week by applying a coat of the water-based wipe-on lacquer or varnish from Crimson, and it worked out fairly well, except for the fact that I don't particularly like the coloration on the back of the neck. The inlay is not an inlay, it's an etch of the logo on the headstock that was done with a V-gouge and isn't quite as precise as I would like. We live in an age of perfection and precision, and everything around us is made on a CNC machine or in a mold or something. It's beautiful and precise. And guitar building never used to be that way. It was handmade, and people expected the imprecision of something being made by hand. The problem is our eyes have now been trained over the last probably 30 or 40 years, if not longer, to have everything absolutely perfect, which means that even the slightest inconsistency comes across as being bad, I tell you, which is not necessarily a good thing. However, I'm not happy with how this turned out, specifically because I ended up putting some ink inside, and that ink accentuated how rough it was looking. The ink, the pen that I put in there, showed how scratchy the carve was. Now, the carve on its own, fine, no worries, but it's just not visible enough. So I need to do something. I need to do something in here. Burn it. Perfect! In the meantime, I have added 3 or 4 coats or 3 or 4 applications of the wipe-on varnish, built up a little bit, and I want to dial that back a fraction and add a coat of oil. After all of that, we're going to put shielding paint. We're going to sort out magnets on the back plate. We're going to install hardware, wiring, maybe even put in a ground wire at some point. So I'm here using very gently a 600 grit wet and dry paper, just to key it a little bit and smooth everything down. Now this is the finish as it currently is, which is really not bad. Just 3 or 4 coats applied, rubbed on, cures within about 5 minutes or so, and you're good. But I want to make it a little bit more homogenous today, which won't take too long. So there we go. I've just flattened the finish a little bit. Now this water-based wipe-on finish does raise the grain a little bit, which somewhat surprised me. I'm not sure why it surprised me, but there we are. I've started out by doing some sanding, which is something that I promised never to do on camera again. And yeah, there will be more before the day is out. Now there's some tear out on the side of this fretboard that I'm not happy with. So it's just there. And I'm not entirely sure what happened. I think that was something that I saw while sanding on video and then completely forgot to fix after the fact. I'm sure I've got ebony offcuts somewhere. Chaos and Carnage. Aha, here we go. Okay, so not quite an offcut, but here we go. Okay, so at this point I'm making a little bit of ebony dust. You don't want to use coarse dust that you get out of a machine sander if you can help it. It's very fluffy and doesn't get the same sort of finish. but this is 80 grit sandpaper here, and that'll do what I need. In fact, more than I need. Okay, so I've got a bit of tear out there. So super glue in first, then dust over the top of it, and then, yeah, pat it all down. So there we go, I've put a little bit more super glue on there, and let's just flood with dust because, hey, we have a lot of dust. And by doing a glue first and dust second, and then tamping it down, we're ensuring that there's going to be no gaps with just super glue. This is less, or air gaps for that matter. This is less of an issue with the brown super glue that I use, but yeah, still something to be aware of. I'm going to go in with a fine, actually a crowning file will do this quite nicely. I really should have done this before applying finish. This is what happens when you are perennially distracted. So, yeah, we've ended up with an area that just doesn't look ideal. Now, with something like this, if you have nice, pristine lines, then it looks like you've had to make a repair. If you chip it out, then it looks like a natural occurrence in the instrument. Okay, so this time I've got the tape on my finger. I've got everything ready so it doesn't cure before I get there. That's a bit better. Obviously something's gone on the front of the fretboard there, which I need to deal with. So that's a repair. I've gone through the water-based varnish that was in that area, but yeah, I'm not too worried about that. Wipe on guitar lacquer. This stuff is rapid. So if I apply this now, I'll be able to rub back and apply my oil finish a little bit later today. No worries whatsoever. Okay, so I've applied some varnish on there. That is good. Now, the back here has been lightly sanded down. I've just knocked the top of the water-based varnish off, and I don't want to go through to the amber, and just feeling my way around. But essentially, we're pretty much there. And I'm going to apply a single coat of oil. If any oil seeps out of any of the holes or gaps, I will see that and be able to wipe it away. The sandpaper is fairly rigid, and the edges, and this is a delicate finish. I played with this earlier and it might go horrendously wrong, but I don't think it will. Essentially, a little bit of powder, and the only reason I'm not too sure about that is is mainly because of these holes. But essentially, I'm very gently matting down this finish. And now there's a load in the paper. I mean, learning. This is what all of this is about. And experimenting on camera with hundreds of people watching. Okay, this has done what I wanted, really. It's made it matte. It hasn't gone through. It's just carefully taking the top off. Now, finally, I'm going to go along in the length like this. And then why is this so fun? Now the paper itself actually has an element of abrasiveness, and this has still got some pumice powder embedded in it, which is also doing nicely. Actually, this is giving exactly the finish that I wanted. That's pretty cool. I think I've had this bag of pumice powder for easily 4 or 5 years, and I've never used it. FF grade pumice powder, whatever that stands for. So here we go, we've got a much more homogenous and attractive finish than we did before. And we just need to apply oil. I suppose I'll go down the neck just in the interests of completeness. It's better than the sanding for most of last week's session, I think. That is actually pretty cool, isn't it? So that doesn't look, it does look homemade, but it's not as yucky as it was before. So I suppose what that means is we're going glow in the dark powder. While I'm here, I'm actually going to rub over the edge of this fretboard with coarser paper. Just round the edges over, make it more comfortable. Need to cut the nut slot as well. Okay, so yeah, this is starting to get comfortable. Fair enough. Okay, so we bought a bunch of nut slotting tools on Amazon, cheap ones, just to see what came and what the quality was like, to see what we're competing against. This is something that came, and it's a Japanese file, which is great. It's a Japanese saw sharpening file, which actually, you know, it wouldn't be terrible as a nut slotting tool. It's just not correct for everything. The funny thing though is the packaging it came in, which says that it is a pair of professional 5-inch pliers for cutting copper wire. Woohoo. I'm going to use the cardboard that these pliers came in as a guard to protect the body as I go. Okay, I don't want to blow all of the pumice that's currently on this tissue up into the air, so I'm just going to do that and replenish. Okay, so there's just a little bit of tidying up to do here. Probably not necessary, but neither is guitar building. We do it because we love it. Okay, so we have drilled the ground wire. What we have not done is drill the truss rod access. Let's drill that since I mentioned it, and we're going to sort out the logos quickly. So yeah, I'm going to apply a coat of guitar finishing oil and then essentially rub it straight back pretty much immediately. And that's just to homogenize the finish and add a little bit of color. However, before I get there, I really do need to sort out this logo. The headstock is sealed, it has got a layer of finish on it, and that means we've got a little bit of ability to play around. It feels like I'm a kid in art class, sort of at 8 years old, just playing around. I am living my best life, 100%. No. Other way around. Super glue. Super glue first, then flood it with powder. Blue-green is what we ended up with. Glow-in-the-dark powder pigment. I am going to run a quick test because that's the smart thing to do. Here's some thin super glue. If you have the chance, whatever you're doing, if it's something you've not done before, test and see. Okay. Now the only difference here is that this wood hasn't been sealed with the finish, so the super glue might flood. It might expand a little bit more. Now the super glue should cure pretty much immediately as the powder hits it. And I should have masking taped up my finger to be honest. There we go. Sand back the excess. This is going to be less of an issue on the final guitar because it's already got a sealant coat. Yeah, I think this will do nicely. We're just going to go for this. If it makes a mess, it makes a mess. I don't need goggles because I'm not spooging stuff. I'm just flooding it. I wonder if I might need to do this in 2 passes, but we will see. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. So here you can see the black ink has come through from behind, and we've got a dark to light gradient, which is exactly what it is on the Crimson Guitars logo, which is just incredible. So yeah, I'm going to sand that back and see what we end up with after the fact, and see what happens. Okay. Okay, I am happy with how this has turned out. I am going to end up with guitar finishing oil on the fretboard as well. I'm going to slather this whole thing in guitar finishing oil, and then we are going to pretty much immediately start rubbing it down. This isn't how you apply oil normally. It is being done over a substrate, and it's here just to homogenize the finish. I'm going with high build guitar finishing oil. I'm going to apply it on the neck first while it is hanging, and the fretboard, and then rub that down, and then the body will be done on the workbench. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is high build guitar finishing oil. And I actually think that this is pretty much my ideal way of applying it at this point. A combination of the guitar finishing oil and a harder substrate of the wipe on varnish seems to be giving the feel and finish and color that I want to see, while also giving a lot more support and protection than the oil just on its own. So, woohoo! I meant that woohoo. I really did. This finish is now looking, it's got character and depth, and the wipe on varnish was not. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. This is a guitar finishing oil as an over sort of final thing on the base. Let's apply some varnish. No? Oil. I also don't want to pour this on actually, because it would just flood through the instrument. So I'm putting on a light coat of high build guitar finishing oil. I don't want too much of it to go into the gaps. This is going to make this whole instrument look even better. Okay, so I've applied it relatively sparsely. If I'd used the penetrating oil, it would be flooding through all of these holes to the other side of the guitar. As it stands, I don't think that has happened. And now I'm immediately drying it off with a relatively clean rag. So I have not yet applied guitar finishing oil to the front of the guitar, but I have reached a finish on the back that I am very happy with. I also didn't knock over the bottle. Okay, so this is the finish we've got. You can see the coloration, you can see the sheen we've got going on. Look at that neck. This is the other side. Well, you see, to me, it looks completely different. But looking at the camera, It's actually fairly similar. There you go, that's the camera to do it. The neck is entirely different. Anyway. Okay. I'm going to throw this on the floor for now, but later I will get it all out in a wet bucket so that it doesn't catch fire later. Okay. We've been going for 3 hours. This instrument is pretty much ready for hardware. The oil is curing. It has been buffed off. We have put in the shielding paint, which is almost dry. I'm about to have some lunch. And Denise is putting out the brightest pink notepad I've ever seen in my life. How do you write on that? Does it not blind you?
No.
Wow. Impressive. I am truly liking this base. I'm going to buff it down with some fresh tissue one final time and get off any excess. So I need to prepare for my nut. Okay, so from one side towards the middle, and then I'm going to have to come in from the other side of the workbench going towards the middle. If I push that out, I'm liable for tear out. That would not be good. I require a nut. Okay, I'm grabbing a little square file because I don't have all of my tools. The nut file is at headquarters. Now, the best saw with which to cut a bone is a hacksaw with fine teeth. My nut is sitting far higher than it needs to be. So yeah, that nut is sitting higher than it needs to be. Specifically, we've got, it's fretless and it's also a little bit loose. So I am going to cut this slot deeper and hopefully resize it a little bit. Now this slot right up this side I'm doing it exactly where it needs to be. And I'll try and bring the other one in a little bit. I should have checked before putting this paint in how well the pickup's fitted. It's relatively thick stuff and it might actually cause an issue, which would be sad. There we go, alrighty. Shielded, and essentially I'll see how much room I've got, but we could actually run an earth lead from each cavity fairly easily. So that's not an issue. It can't hurt. We've just distracted ourselves. Let's get back to this nut, shall we? The guitar nut, not the Luthier.
Oh, shucks.
I need to make this slot slightly smaller. So what I want to do is grab a feeler gauge. This is one of the old type crimson feeler gauges. This is going to be too tight, I think. I'm going to have to file it wider, but we'll see where we end up. Here we go. And we've got it. And yeah, I'm happy with how this is coming together. Okie dokie. Oh, I just found another small ruler. Yay. Actually, look at that. This is the first time I've used these. So we've got standard base nut slotting files at Crimson for now. Let's go any balls, 105s to 50s. I'm going to start the cut with this lovely little saw that I love because it's cute and lovely.
Can you answer a question on oil finish?
Absolutely.
Roadie? So go to the roadie. Serious question. How many coats of the penetrating guitar finishing oil will I need to put on so I don't need to do any other finish?
3 or 4. If it's the only finish, 3 or 4, or maybe 5 is around about where you... Yeah, it's about that, I would say. These base files are imperial rather than metric, or at least 0.085, 0.045. No, stop it. I am not thinking straight. 105, 0.105, it's all the same thing. Shh. I don't want to go very deep. I do think that this is actually potentially going to be too low. We'll see. The nut slots set the taper of the strings, therefore, and everything has been designed around the nut slot and the bridge spacing, basically. So yeah, from the designing point, we have everything set. Look, so at this stage, I'm not actually going to finish this today, I don't think. And then you come along and line them up. I like this. The fact that all of the slots in the tuners are all currently lined up with each other just makes me so happy. And then here is another happy little accident. I had filled this partially filled this slot with some ink and didn't like the look. And then putting the glow-in-the-dark pigment in there, the logo has come out with a gradient because it reacted with the super glue and the glow-in-the-dark pattern, which is really cool. I'm so close to the end with this thing. Look, at this stage, we've been going for 5 hours. I am actually going to call it a day. I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I'm really, 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 really happy. That is progress. It's coming together. There's a little bit of work around there on the finish. Yeah, it's going to be good. So in the next episode, we will be finishing 100%. I don't think I can procrastinate any longer. Seriously, no matter who's watching, no matter what is happening, if you are so tired that you're worried about something going wrong, stop. Find something else to do. Come back to the build the next day. It's nothing is worth messing things up just because you're not on the top of your game. But anyway, it's all fun and games. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for asking your questions and for commenting, for being part of this incredible community. See you soon. Damn it, I just found a carbon fiber nut, everybody.